This is a repair of a 3/4 inch gate valve. Now, it's a situation where you may be in a situation where it is very difficult to get to your gate valve, and doing a repair may be the desired outcome. And so on this gate valve, we've removed this outer part of it, the bonnet we'll call it, and unfortunately it's quite difficult to get parts, repair parts for these things. You also can't find a manufacturer, so it's very difficult to match up parts. So I just happen to have another gate valve. The stem is a similar diameter, similar thread, and I'm going to go ahead and just remove the good stem and put it into the other gate valve that is broken. Again, these stems, I couldn't find a location online where you could buy them. You could find some places where you can get some parts for these gate valves, but they're quite expensive. I mean, it's cheaper just to buy a whole new valve, if you will. But you may be a plumbing fanatic. You may have a situation where you don't want to remove the gate valve and you just want to repair it. And or you have parts for it and you can strip it apart, and this is going to be a video that gives you a little bit more information on how to do that. So here's my damaged stem, and what we're going to do, in the stem is held in place by a lock nut, we'll call it, and it has a couple little eyelets on it that you can put needle nose pliers into it and screw it counterclockwise and remove that nut. When you remove that nut, you will remove that stem, the threaded stem. So the defect with these valves is once they're sitting in position, they sort of get corroded. Sediment from the water kind of cements it in place. You go to open the valve or close the valve and you end up breaking the stem. Because the stem is a threaded piece of brass, it's not very strong, and the fact that it's threaded, the actual thickness of the metal is not all that thick, so it's easy to break, in other words, especially if it's a valve that you don't open and close on any type of regularity. They do get welded shut. So the trick with heat is by torching the metal, you actually will expand it, and by expanding it, you break the bond of the rust. And it's a old plumber's trick, and it works on most metals, that if you apply heat, you can successful. Otherwise, you're going to break it. I can promise you. I've broken many apart. So in this application, I've actually had to, because it's been sitting so long, I've had to apply heat 2 or 3 times. So here I'm taking some needle nose pliers. I finally got it loosened. I'm sticking the needle nose pliers in those 2 little holes that allow you to get a purchase on that nut. There's a nut. Now be careful, it's going to be hot because you just applied heat to it. But there's the nut. We want to protect it and keep it safe, because what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this stem, the threaded stem, and replace it with the used stem from a good valve. Just examining it, making sure that we don't have any defects or broken parts. Not coming off real easy, so I just broke the stem so that I could remove that nut. I didn't want to bugger up the threads by forcing it off the old stem. A little protection. So here's the replacement stem. It does have, we're going to try to do the same thing, use heat. So unfortunately, the first thing you got to do is you got to remove any rubber, silicone, any soft parts, so that, because you're going to be applying heat, you're going to damage it. Now, this particular manufacturer did not have anything where you could heat it, you could put needle nose pliers and unscrew it. I couldn't get it to move. It's just probably a cheaper form of manufacturing. I mean, I tried multiple ways to sort of unloosen it, and I couldn't. What I had to do in this case is I had to actually flip it over and take a hacksaw blade and cut the top nut apart. You'll actually see the part, the little broken piece or the cutoff piece close to that paper. So here it is. We're going to go ahead and put everything back together. So we do have that stem, the threaded stem, and I've tested the size. It fits into, everything fits. So we're fortunate that we got a match for it, if you will. And so I'm screwing that locking nut back into place so that it holds the stem in position so it doesn't unscrew or drop out. So I'm going to be using a little bit of Teflon tape because it is the rubber seal. Sometimes it's graphite, sometimes it's rubber. Is old, and I'm going to use some Teflon tape around the perimeter. And that little white cup, if you saw me, that is some plumber's silicone, which allows you to slide parts easier together. It will also make it much easier if you ever have to take it apart. And you don't have to use as much force to seal the two parts together, so that it's, again, it'll be easier to take apart. Here I'm putting the wheel back on, putting the nut on. So we've got that part of it all put together. And we're going to take, again, some Teflon tape, and this time we're going to shape it into kind of a string. We're going to be making almost a flat washer. We're going to be going around the outside perimeter of this bonnet, which is about 1.5 inches diameter. Oftentimes it comes with a little O-ring or a nylon washer. We don't have that, but we're going to use the Teflon. And you'll see me taking it, instead of using it in a flat, I'm actually making it like in a string form, going around 2 or 3 times clockwise, so that when I screw it in, and I'm also putting Teflon silicone paste on it so it'll slide in. So there's a valve. It's all put together, and it will work. Again, if you can shut the valve off, unscrew the stem, and leave the gate in position. It'll shut the water off, and you can do your repair and put it all back together. There's a couple of videos in that shows you how to do that, so this is more on what to do if you actually have it apart. So here's another valve. This one was in the ground. This was a cutoff valve, 1 inch, and you'll see that the stem is just unscrewing. The gate is in position. It's in the valve. You can actually screw it and shut it off, but when you go to unscrew it, it just continues to unscrew because there's a component inside that's missing, and it does not look like it was a threaded piece. It looks like it was actually just something that was pressed on that either fell apart or through wear broke off, and who knows where it ended up. But that's the unfortunate part. Again, none of these are universal. There's so many different kinds. You may be in a position where you're just going to have to replace the entire valve. But if you can find the parts, this is a video that shows you how to do the possible repair. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe. Bye now.